There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you can become a Knight of the Zodiac. Hi guys, this is the next part of What if Itachi Uchiha was reincarnated in the world of fairy tale? I hope you enjoy. Itachi was alone with Master Makarov in the woods giving him the results of the test. So, how did the brats do? Makarov asked with his arms crossed and a stern facial expression. Knowing Itachi, the test was bound to have been both physical, intellectual and emotional, although Makarov didn't know what the test was. Both teams passed. Laxus, Gajil, Mira Jane, Elfman, Kana and Freed's group passed with flying colors. All of them are ready to participate in the games. However, Natsu, Gray, Urza, Lucy, Juvia and Wendy's group failed at first, had to resort to using the second part of the test for them to pass. Although they have learned their lesson and are ready. You can pick amongst them and find your team for the games and they will succeed, that I guarantee. Itachi reported back to Makarov and the old master let out a small chuckle. I see, what was the test about anyway? Makarov asked with a raised brow as he was genuinely curious. The test was about teamwork. They were supposed to work together to steal a few bells from me. Itachi replied and Makarov let out a sigh. Let me guess, you made them use their heads to figure it out. Makarov asked as he could then understand why Natsu would have failed the first part of the test. I had to drop a hint every now and then, really subtle hints though. But trust me, they are ready. Itachi had a small amused smile at the master's words. Well, according to the rules each guild can form 2 teams. And I know that we will win, considering I have decided you will compete as well. Makarov grinned from ear to ear as there was no doubt in his mind that they would win the games as long as Itachi was competing. I figured as much, so how many members can there be per team? Itachi questioned, although he actually didn't feel like participating in something like the Grand Magic Games, he felt like he owed the members of the guild that were stuck without them for 7 years. And the way he could pay them back, was by helping their guild rise to the top. There are 5 members for each team, so besides you I have to pick 9 other members for the teams. And I have already figured out which ones I will choose. I'm going to announce the first team right now. By the way, I was planning on you being on the second team, so please, would you mind waiting until after I have picked the first team? I would like for the second team to be a surprise. Makarov said with an amused chuckle as there was nothing he loved more than surprising his brats. Itachi let out a small sigh at how childish the master could be sometimes, but he was a good man nonetheless, and someone Itachi respected a great deal. Very well, I will do as you wish, Master Makarov. Itachi said as he vanished at super speed. Itachi rested on the rooftop of the guild hall as the master was announcing the first team that will represent Fairy Tail. He could hear the master announce the names of Natsu, Gray, Urza, Lucy and Wendy for the first team. Itachi looked up into the blue sky as he enjoyed the nice breeze on his face, while he was waiting for the master to tell him to come down. Itachi could hear confusion from the other guild members as to why Itachi wasn't there, and the master would simply reply that Itachi, Laxus and Gajil hadn't come back yet, making it sound like some of the chosen ones for the first team was because he couldn't find the ones who were stronger. Itachi then heard that they let out a cheer which disturbed his relaxation a little, although he was used to this by now and didn't care. As everyone went outside to celebrate the ones representing the first team for Fairy Tail in the Grand Magic Games. Makarov looked up to the rooftop and spotted Itachi giving him a thumbs up and a goofy grin. Makarov then went to speak with certain individuals during the celebration. Those individuals would be on the second team. As some time passed, most of the Fairy Tail Guild members besides the ones who were chosen for the second team, left the guild hall. Itachi then jumped down from the rooftop and landed right next to the master. So, who have you chosen for the second team? Itachi looked down at the dwarf master. Oh, those 2. Makarov pointed over to Mira Jane and Juvia. Mira looked at Itachi with a warm smile while waving, while Juvia looked depressed that she wasn't on Gray's team. And these 2. Makarov said as down came someone crashing from the sky, and a bolt of lightning struck the ground in front of them. Once the dust cleared, it revealed Laxus and Gajil, who had Panther Lily on his back. You lot will be known as Fairy Tail Team B. Makarov said, and Gajil and Laxus didn't take it kindly to be called Team B like they were worth less than Team A. I ain't gonna be a part of that freak show. Gajil declared. I don't mind entering, although being a part of Team B sounds insulting. Laxus said. Then how about this? The winning team gets to do whatever it wants to the other team for a day. Makarov said, and instantly everyone besides Itachi got excited and they all had a different look in their eyes, some sadistic, amused, one was overjoyed. Now, Itachi, here is the information and the official rulebook for the games, take them and head over to Crocus, everything has been arranged for your travels. Makarov said and then went off to go with Team A. Tick, why do we have to go alone? Gajeel questioned, looking a little annoyed and was still unhappy about being called Team B. The master wants us to be a surprise for the others, it is childish I know, but it doesn't matter. Let's get going, Itachi said as they all left together. After some travel, and having to deal with Gajeel having motion sickness, and Laxus although he hid that he had it. They arrived at Crocus, the capital of the Kingdom of Fury, and the place where the Grand Magic Games are held once a year. They all stood in the big city of the capital, that was way bigger than Magnolia and any other city they had been in. Mira, Jane and Juvia looked around in awe at the city as there were decorations everywhere, for the festival of the Grand Magic Games. The master had said that he was going to sign them up, so all they had to do was follow the rest of the instructions. Okay, so according to the rule book and the instructions, Itachi said as the rest of the team gathered around him. The competition is different every year, with different trials and such, it can be everything from a fight, to a race, to shooting range etc. And the total score of the several contests determines the winner. So, I guess we have to be prepared for anything and take it as it comes. And gather as many points as we can. Sounds easy enough, Laxus said with his elbow placed on Itachi's shoulder as he looked at the rulebook. So, are there anything major we need to know about the games? Mira Jane asked. Well, there are 3 major rules here I suppose. The first is that the master of each guild isn't allowed to participate. Itachi read up the first major rule. Sounds fair, Gajeel said. Those without a guild's emblem can't participate as a guild's guest. Itachi read the second rule. Makes sense, Juvia commented, and Itachi couldn't believe how close the master came to breaking that rule by inviting Jalal to pose as Mistogen for the games, since Jalal had requested if he could, in order to find that mysterious source of dark magic power. Itachi however managed to assure that Jalal had nothing to worry about and that he would look out for anything suspicious, and even gave him a crow so that Itachi can report directly to Jalal, Ultir and Meridi. And, each game will remain a secret until just before it begins, at which time the game's rules will be revealed. Itachi read up the final important rule, and although that didn't help them, they all had some confidence that no matter the challenge they would prevail. And here is one final thing, all participants must return to their designated inn by 12 o'clock, in other words at midnight. Itachi said, and they all looked towards the clock tower to see the time. It's still some time, what should we do in the meantime? Mira questioned as she looked over at Itachi, hinting she wanted to look around the town with him. I wouldn't mind just going to the inn and relax until the games begin. Itachi said, and then noticed Mira Jane pouting at what he said, making him sweat drop a little. Oh, or maybe go exploring around town, Itachi said, and instantly she gained a happy smile. She's too easy to read, oh well, I still love her. Itachi thought with a small smile. Juvia will go look for Gray-sama, Juvia declared and ran off. Remember where we are staying? Itachi shouted at the running Juvia. Juvia remembers. Juvia shouted as she kept running to look for her beloved Gray. Well, what about you two? Itachi looked over at Gajeel and Laxus. Whatever, I will just go and wait at the inn. Laxus shrugged his shoulders and walked away. The rest of you just focus on getting there in time. You don't have to tell me that. Itachi smiled a little as there was no way he would be late for something like this. I'ma go with Lily and find us something to eat, Gajeel said and left with Panther Lily. Guess everyone has their own thing, shall we go? Itachi looked at Mira that held his right arm between her breast, although Itachi didn't care or mind. Mira nodded with a warm loving smile as she nuzzled her head up against his shoulder. They walked around the festive town enjoying the joyous atmosphere in the air, and ended up going to a restaurant for dinner. As time passed and the sky was already dark, the streets were lit up by various lights. Itachi and Mira Jane were walking back to their inn as it was almost midnight. Mira was still hugging onto Itachi's arm, and people were staring at them. Some elderly calling them an adorable young couple, some guys looking at Itachi with envy over the fact that he had a girl like Mira Jane, and some girls looking at Mira with envy for having a guy like Itachi. Itachi noticed these stares and didn't let it bother him, and neither did Mira. She just looked happy that they were together, and Itachi was happy for that as well. Are you a little nervous about the games at all? Mira Jane suddenly asked while looking up at Itachi. No, not really, I'm sure we will pull through. And even if we don't win we will still rise in popularity. So, I'm confident that everything will go just fine. What about you, are you nervous? Itachi asked while looking at Mira with a warm comforting smile. A little, we don't know who we're up against, and we don't know what the challenges will be, but, if you have faith that we can do it, that makes me a lot less nervous. Mira smiled and tightened her embrace on Itachi's arm while leaning in closer. Hey look, that emblem, those two are from Fairy Tail. Someone said in a mocking tone as various people started to look over to them and started laughing. Seriously, the guild that comes in last every time? Just go home, Sabretooth is going to win this year like always. A man said and everyone laughed with his mocking words. Mira looked a little annoyed and was about to act when Itachi stopped her. If they want to laugh, let them laugh. It's not our concern what these people think of us. Itachi said and kept walking when suddenly in front of them stood a tall muscular man with long green spiky hair. However, unlike his upper body, his legs looked quite normal. He held his massive hair in place with a black headband over his forehead. His face was adorned in black stripes that looked like war paint. He had 4 vertical black stripes on his chin, and his massive shoulders and biceps are covered in dark tattoos. He wore simple pants with a large fur-rimmed tiger pattern around his waist. Hey, that's Orga Nonagir from Sabretooth. One civilian spoke and they all looked at this giant man in awe who looked down on Itachi and Mira Jane. You weaklings are from Fairy Tail. Hey, better just go home. Orga smirked overconfidently. Would you please step aside, we have to get to our inn, which you should as well. Itachi said calmly as he wasn't threatened or impressed with Orga. Shut it, and get out of my way. Orga glared at Itachi with dark lightning flickering around him. I have no time to deal with a mere brute like yourself, so if you would please, step aside. Itachi said calmly while Mira glared daggers at this Orga, really wanting to punch him in the face. What did you call me? Orga leaned down to Itachi's eye level and glared at him. I called you a brute, that is the definition of someone like you with more muscles than brains. Itachi said, making Orga growl at him. Calling me stupid, huh? Well, I will show you. Orga cracked his knuckles as black lightning flickered around him. Itachi let out a sigh as this was bothersome. Unless you want to get hurt, step aside. Itachi gave one final warning. Oh, that's it. Orga raised his fist, and in an instant Itachi activated his Sharingan and Orga froze on the spot as Itachi placed him in a paralyzed genjutsu. You should never underestimate your opponent, regardless of appearance. Take that as a lesson. Itachi said as he and Mira Jane kept walking and he undid the genjutsu placed on Orga, who sweated and growled. He then fused his fist with black lightning and was about to charge at Itachi. When suddenly a massive amount of pressure was released, and Orga stopped moving from feeling this intense pressure of power. Everyone looked to the source and saw Itachi. They all instantly began shaking and Orga started to back up a bit, and then Itachi stopped releasing the pressure. Itachi let out a small sigh. Let's go, Mira, Itachi said and looked at Mira Jane with a loving smile which she returned, and they walked back to their inn, leaving an amazed crowd behind them. Was that guy really from Fairy Tail? A young man questioned, still shaking and had a look of awe. There is no way that Loser Guild has someone like him, another man uttered. Wait, I recognized him. A man said, which grabbed Orga and the others' attention. Yeah, that was the Demon Eyes of Fairy Tail. Itachi Uchiha. I heard he was the strongest member of the guild, although he vanished 7 years ago. And no way. Why yeah, I remember him now too. So, the group that vanished 7 years ago are back. Orga growled as he looked at the spot where Itachi once stood. Whatever, Orga growled and walked away, probably heading towards his own inn. Itachi returned to the inn with Mira Jane, to find that Laxus, Gajil and Juvia were waiting. You made it just in time, thought you would be here earlier. Laxus said as Itachi and Mira Jane sat down on a bed. We had a little run-in with a member of Sabretooth. Itachi replied with a stoic expression, and they all looked intrigued to hear more. Oh, was he strong? Gajil questioned. I didn't fight him, I just gave him a little scare, that's all. He wouldn't let us through and tried to attack. Itachi replied, to which Laxus gave a light chuckle. Figures, could you tell if he was strong or not? Laxus questioned. He had a lot of magic power within him. I would say he is probably around the level of an S-class mage. Itachi replied, and they all didn't seem that impressed at this guild called Sabretooth. Then suddenly the sound of the clock hitting midnight was heard, as bells rang across the town. Attention, Guild members who've gathered for the Grand Magic Games. Morning. A voice came from outside and they all went on the balcony to check and saw a large hologram of a man with a pumpkin mask. Itachi looked at the pumpkin man with his Sharingan and could see a trace of what was the pumpkin's man energy signature from the hologram. The pumpkin man must be putting his own magic power through some lacrima to appear on this hologram. The preliminary round to narrow the 114 participating teams down to 8 will now begin. The pumpkin man announced, and that came as a shock as it wasn't in the rule books. With more and more guilds entering every year, the games are getting boring, is all I ever hear, so this year only 8 teams will vie for our cheer. The preliminary round rules are simple. The ground suddenly began shaking as the inns grew into massive towers. You will now participate in a race. The Domus Flau Stadium is the goal. The first 8 teams to reach it will qualify for the games. You're free to use magic. There are no limitations, only the first 8 teams to reach the goal will clear the preliminary round. However, all 5 team members must cross the goal for it to count. Also, we are not responsible for any loss of life that happens in the labyrinth. Let the Grand Magic Games preliminary Sky Labyrinth round begin. The Pumpkin Man declared as paths were formed from the balconies towards a sphere that was the labyrinth. Let's go, Itachi shouted, and they all rushed towards the sphere at full speed. Itachi using Shunshin to get to the sphere, Laxus using his lightning to increase his speed, Mira Jane flying at full speed in her Satan Soul form, Juvia using her water body to fly there faster, and Gajil extending his legs, by turning them into iron, from the balcony to fly there faster. They were without a doubt the first team to get inside the massive sphere known as the Sky Labyrinth. Once they were inside, it was hard to describe what they saw. Everything was both upside down while at the same time not, it was a 3-dimensional space. Itachi instantly began looking around with his Sharingan, and one thing he noticed was the energy signature from the hologram, in one specific place. If I remember correctly, the stadium was in that direction. And that direction was the exact spot he saw the energy signature. This way, Itachi said, and they moved at full speed after Itachi. Are you sure this is the right direction? Laxus asked with a raised brow, not that he doubted Itachi, but he wanted to be absolutely sure. The energy signature I saw from that hologram is in that one certain spot, and considering the direction the stadium was from our inn, it is in the same direction as that energy signature, so that is definitely the goal. Itachi explained, and they all smirked and followed him without question. I'm really starting to love those eyes of yours. Laxus grinned as they moved towards the goal at high speed. Itachi surrounded his body with a murder of crows and flew towards the goal. Mira in her Satan Soul was right behind him. Laxus moved with his lightning bouncing from one platform to the next. Juvia did the same with her water, and Gajil did the same by extending his now iron club legs towards the goal. Before they knew it, with Itachi's tracking skills and eyes to locate the energy signature, their speed, stealing maps from other guilds, they had managed to reach the goal, and came in first place nonetheless. Later at the inn, Fairy Tail Team B were celebrating that they passed the preliminaries, when suddenly someone knocked on their door, and in entered Master Makarov, who looked rather grim. Which made the celebration stop. What's wrong, Master? Mira was the one to ask the question. What? Did Salamander's team not make it? Gajil questioned with a raised brow. No, Natsu and his team managed to pass, barely, they came in 8th place. Although, Elfman has taken Wendy's place. Makarov said, which made everyone look confused. Didn't Wendy feel up for it? Juvia questioned with concern for the little maiden who was one of the few females in the guild she didn't think was after her gray. She was attacked, her magic had been sucked out from her, same with Charles. Makarov said, and everyone looked shocked and some were angry. The hell you say? Gajil questioned with a look of anger as he clenched his fists. Perliuzica is taking care of her, but she won't be able to participate for the first days of the games. And we have no idea who is responsible either. I just wanted to let you all know, good luck tomorrow. Makarov said as he walked out. You all heard Gramps, get some rest for the games tomorrow. Laxus said, not showing his anger, although he was angry just like everyone in the room, although Itachi didn't feel as much anger as he felt worried for Wendy's health, and wondering who was behind it and why. He suspected it was most likely someone competing in the games that was behind this. Let's all get focused. For the next 7 days of the games, we will make Fairy Tail rise to the top. Itachi said with a serious look, and everyone else nodded. Next day, the stadium Fairy Tail Team B were waiting for when their team would be called up. As they were waiting, they could hear the crowd cheering in excitement for the games. The sounds of rockets were also heard. This is it, the first day of the Grand Magic Games. Itachi said as he and everyone on his team had one thing on their mind, to become the #1 guild again. Now to introduce the competitors. They could hear the announcer's voice as clear as day. First up, in 8th place. Can this rowdy bunch with an uncharacteristic name reclaim their former glory? It's Fairy Tail, the announcer declared, and the audience started to boo. Well, that was to be expected. Itachi said with a stoic expression at the reaction Natsu's team got, although the rest of his team looked slightly annoyed that their guild was this low on the popularity bar. Don't worry, sooner or later we will make the booing stop. Itachi smirked, which made the rest of them smirk as well. We will show 'em what Fairy Tail is capable of. Laxus grinned. Despite coming in last every year before, Fairy Tail has already managed to clear the preliminaries and secure its spot as one of the 8 top guilds. Will the Tenro team's sensational return help them become Fiore's greatest guild? Then the sound of Makarov and the rest of Fairy Tail cheering for them was heard. The announcer then went on to declare the rest of the guilds: 7th place Quattro Cerberus, 6th place Mermaid Heel, 5th place Blue Pegasus, 4th place Lamia Scale. And the difference was that they were all met with cheers. However, the next name would surprise all of them: 3rd place Raven Tail. Raven Tail? Laxus questioned with a raised brow, as he recognized that guild. So would every member of Fairy Tail, the guild that was created by Laxus' very own father and Makarov's son, Ivan Drayar. But how? Raven Tail is a dark guild, Mira Jane pointed out, as dark guilds weren't allowed to participate. They must have been approved as a legal guild during the past 7 years, although I seriously doubt their hatred for us has changed. Itachi said with a narrowed gaze, as the announcer declared that they indeed had been approved of as a legal guild. See, we have no choice but to deal with them during the contests, although, I suspect they were most likely the ones that attacked Wendy and Charles, Itachi said, and everyone got even more serious, and ready to defeat Raven Tail. The announcer then continued, and 2nd place went to Sabretooth, which came as a shocker to the entire audience at the fact that Sabretooth didn't come in first. It came as a shock to the rest of them as well. Itachi looked out from the corner of their tunnel and saw, although Sabretooth was met with cheer, they didn't look happy about having come in 2nd place. Very well, 1st place, oh, this is a surprise. Fairy Tail Team V. They walked out and everyone gasped in shock that Fairy Tail had 2 teams. Nei-chan. Elfman questioned in shock as he saw Mira Jane. Gajeel. Natsu questioned, looking just as shocked. Juvia. Gray questioned, although he knew she was here, he didn't know she was competing. Even Laxus and Itachi. This is against the rules. Lucy said in shock, as they all thought there was supposed to be only 1 team for each guild. Oni-san. Urza uttered, and Itachi gave her a smile. Oh, it seems the latest rule changes have left many people perplexed, Mr. Yajima. The announcer spoke to his co-announcer, former council member and longtime friend of Makarov, Yujima. Each guild was permitted to enter 2 teams into this tournament, Yujima announced. Makarov then let out a laughter, enjoying seeing all those reactions. How do you like that? This is Fairy Tail, Makarov declared, and next to him, to Itachi's surprise, was First Master Mavis Ghost. The tiny master noticed Itachi looking at her and gave him a warm smile and a friendly wave. To which Itachi gave a small nod. The competition will be between teams, though. Can fellow guild members really be allowed to compete with each other? It'll be alright, I would think. Yujima said. But isn't that a little unfair? The 3rd announcer, the current Miss Fiore, a member of Blue Pegasus, a woman with long blonde hair tied up into a ponytail, with blue eyes and a figure that rivaled Mira Jane's, dressed in a pink dress, Jenny Reelite. For example, in an event where each team chooses 1 person to compete, the 2 Fairy Tail members could team up against the rest. I guess that is the advantage Fairy Tail gains by having 2 teams out of 100 to reach the tournament. Oh ho ho, you certainly have the upper hand now, Maki. Yujima chuckled. This is a bunch of crap. Natsu shouted, which gained everyone's attention. Even if we are in the same guild, I'm gonna fight with everything I got. I ain't gonna hold back. Being in this tournament makes you my enemy. I ain't gonna lose to you. Natsu shouted while glaring at Team V. Gajeel walked up to Natsu and they had a stare down. Bring it on. Mr. Barely came in 8th place. Gajeel mocked the pink-haired dragon slayer, and Natsu couldn't find any comeback to that. Let's do our best, Elfman. Mira Jane looked up at her little brother with a warm, friendly smile, Yet Elfman was not fooled as he knew how dangerous she was and started to sweat nervously. "Nei-chan," Elfman managed to utter with a nervous grin. "Oni-san, I should have suspected something was off when the master didn't announce you for our team." Urza smirked as she and Itachi stood face to face. "HN, he wanted it to be a surprise." Itachi gave her a relaxed calm smile. "Have you managed to notice something about what Jalal was talking about?" "So far I only suspect Raven Tail." Urza mentioned the second goal they both had for being here in the game. "I haven't, although I doubt Raven Tail is behind it. They haven't entered the games before now, so they couldn't possibly be the cause of it. Guess we'll both have to watch out," Itachi said as he noticed something strange about one of the Raven Tail members, the one in golden armor and a black cloak. He could feel the man glare at him. "Itachi Uchiha," the masked armored man growled. "Anyway, if we ever go up against each other, Oni-san, I expect you to not go easy on me," Urza said with a smirk as now she was looking forward to competing against Itachi. "Of course, I can't wait to see how much you have grown, Urza." Itachi smiled as they both let out a chuckle. Itachi could feel Sabretooth glaring at them also. One was a young man with spiky yellow hair and blue eyes. He had a scar going over his right eyebrow and next to his right eye. This was Sting, one of the dragon slayers from Sabretooth. Next to him was another young man with dark hair and with bangs going over his right eye. He was dressed in a cloak. This was Rogue, the second dragon slayer. Orga was also there, sending more intense glares of rage at Itachi. There was also a young man with long blonde hair dressed up in a red vest with a white shirt underneath. He also had a red hat and a mask over his eyes. Then there was a young woman with short silver hair and brown eyes dressed in a cloak, who was the only one among Sabretooth not glaring at him and the rest of Team B. "How did they beat us in the preliminary?" Sting questioned with a shocked look while glaring at Fairy Tail Team B, TCH. "We must have gone too easy on them," Orga growled. "My memory serves that we did underestimate everyone," Rufus said, looking rather calm. "It doesn't matter, the real games start now," Rogue said as he looked at Gajiel from the corner of his eye. "That's right, they only got in first because you guys went too easy on them." A little brown-furred exceed in a blue vest named Lecter, Sting's partner, said, having full confidence in his partner. "Fro thinks so too," a little green exceed in a pink frog costume, named Frosh, said. "So, that is the current most powerful guild, Sabretooth," Itachi thought with his eyes narrowed at them. That wasn't the only looks Itachi were sent, as various young girls in the stadium looked at him with hearts in their eyes. "That one Fairy Tail guy looks so cool," a girl squealed looking at Itachi. "How come someone like him is in Fairy Tail?" another girl said looking at Itachi. This however caused Itachi to get some even more dangerous glares, not from the boys of the stadium, but from Mira Jane, who had her eyes closed and smiled while facing Itachi, although she let out a menacing giggle. Itachi looked at her and gave her a nervous smile and a chuckle. "That is all the competing teams. What are your thoughts upon seeing this lineup?" Ujima-san. I wish I was young," Ujima replied as he was eyeing some of the female competitors. That's not quite what I meant. Now, then. It's time to unveil the event schedule for the Grand Magic Games." The next moment a massive stone pillar emerged from the ground, with various days marked on them and most of them filled with question marks, or, plus battle, and with the event of the first day being called, hidden. "A battle almost every day, huh?" Itachi said as he looked at the stone pillar board. "This will be fun." Gajiel grinned. "First, the contest have rankings from 1st to 8th. How a team ranks in a contest determines how many points they will earn. Additionally, a team can choose any member to participate in the contest parts. Next are the battle parts. The event organizers have chosen these matchups based on fan surveys. The battle rules are simple. Each team will square off as shown here. The winning teams will earn 10 points, while the losing teams will earn 0. In the case of a draw, both teams will be awarded 5 points. Alright, it's now time for the Grand Magic Games opening game, Hidden, to begin. Hidden? Mira Jane questioned, trying to find the purpose of the contest by its name. Is it like hide and seek? Maybe. Just with a little twist. Itachi replied. Each team will choose one to participate. The game's rules will be explained once all the competitors are ready. From the looks of it, Quattro Cerberus picked a big muscle guy with tan skin and long silver hair tied into a ponytail, wearing headphones. His name is Jaeger. Mermaid Heel picked a young girl with brown hair tied into pigtails with small freckles on her cheek and nose. She was dressed in a black shirt underneath a calf-length blue overalls held up by shoulder straps. Her name is Beth Vanderwood. Raven Tail picked a short purple guy with yellow slicked back hair that kept smirking. He wore a white coat over his body. This was Nullpudding. Blue Pegasus picked out Eve. While Sabretooth picked a fancy-looking guy with long blonde hair dressed in red. This was Rufus Lore. While Lamia Scale picked out Leone, so Fairy Tail Team A picked Gray, which led to Juvia going for Fairy Tail Team B. All 8 teams have chosen their competitors. Now for the rules of the opening game, Hidden. Will each team's hidden competitors please step forward? The man in the pumpkin mask said. Itachi and the rest of Team B besides Juvia was in their gallery looking down and watching the contest. Field open. Suddenly many large buildings appeared on the stadium, making it look like a small city, this being the battleground for today's event. And from the looks of it, each contestant was placed in different parts of the city as it was shown on the screen. Looks like it will be like hide and seek. Itachi uttered as the announcer was now just about to explain the rules of the game. All competitors are hiders and seekers at the same time. The goal is to find the other competitors in the town and then strike them with any magic attacks you have. The competitors who delivers the attack, whether it causes damage or not, will score 1 point. The announcer said as suddenly from the looks on the screens, several copies of the participants were made around the city. These are copies of you all. Should you mistakenly attack a copy, you will lose 1 point. Now, then, vanish into the silence, like a black cat lurking in the darkness of night. Let Hidden begin. And the instant it began, Juvia, being overwhelmed by seeing so many Greys, instantly hugged one of them, which counted as an attack, and she lost a point and was teleported to a new location. That idiot, Gajil uttered. This might be too difficult for Juvia to deal with. Mira said with her usual smile. If I had known it would be like this, I would have entered instead, Laxus said with a dumbfounded expression. Well, let's give her a chance, Itachi uttered with a nervous smile. The contest would last a total of 30 minutes according to the announcer, and for each time a person was attacked, that person would also lose a point. Later it ended in disaster. Fairy Tail came in last, but Juvia at least managed to get 1 point, while Gray got 0. It ended with Rufus from Sabretooth winning by striking everyone from a high spot. And Gray couldn't get a chance to attack Rufus or others since Nullpudding from Raven Tail constantly went after him. Everyone in the audience ended up laughing at Fairy Tail and calling them weak, and everlasting last place. TCH. Those damn bastards. Gajil clenched his fist, wanting to show the audience just how powerful they were. The same was felt among the rest of Team B and, alike. Easy, we will get our chance, just relax and let them laugh for now. Itachi calmed down the Iron Dragon Slayer. Itachi's eyes were narrowed as he looked over at Raven Tail. It seems they will only come after us, be on constant guard. Itachi warned, seeing as what happened with Gray, and they all nodded. Then came the battles, and up for the first battle was Lucy, against Flare from Raven Tail. A young woman with a curvy figure and a large bust, dressed in a red dress and with red long hair tied into pigtails. Her eyes were red and she looked at Lucy with a creepy grin. They looked down onto the battlefield, this being Fairy Tail's chance to get some points to even out the score. However, what was clear for everyone in Fairy Tail was the anger in Lucy's eyes. Raven Tail had not only attacked Wendy, but they kept going after Gray in the previous event rather than winning. Without a doubt the blonde celestial wizard was out for some payback. Lucy started off on the offensive, and to all their surprise she was able to summon 2 celestial spirits at once, both Taurus and Scorpio. Lucy has improved a lot. Mira Jane said while happily clapping for her friend. Indeed, she has, although something tells me she is still in trouble, Itachi uttered as he paid close attention to the battle. Flare had the ability to extend her hair and merge it with fire, and she was able to block an attack from Scorpio with her hair. That's some strange magic, Laxus commented as they all watched closely. Lucy was then able to combine Scorpio's sandstorm power with Taurus' brute physical strength, making a massive sandstorm that spread across the arena. Flare took some damage, although this only infuriated her. She then extended her hair and it took the shape of a wolf. Lucy countered it by summoning Cancer and cut down the hair wolf. Way to go, Lucy. Mira cheered. Flare got angrier that her hair was cut, and extended her hair further, sending it underground. Her hair wrapped around Lucy's ankles and swung her around violently like a ragdoll. This looks bad, Juvia uttered as they all grew concerned for Lucy, but the celestial spirit mage wasn't done yet. She took out her new whip that was merged with energy and wrapped it around Flare's wrist. Then they both started spinning, although Itachi could clearly see with his Sharingan that Flare had lit her hair on fire around Lucy's ankles, burning through even her boots. The crowd went wild at seeing this fight now that both girls had released each other from their grips, although Lucy could barely stand with her burned legs. Lucy had to take off her burnt boots to stand without feeling her skin getting burned. She didn't take that much damage. She's off to a great start, her chances of winning have increased. Itachi said, although he knew that Raven Tail wouldn't give up just like that. Flare had once again dug her hair underground, although they never came after Lucy this time. What's going on? Is she going for her legs again? Laxus questioned. She's barefoot this time, she will take way more damage now, Mira uttered in concern. No, she's up to something. Itachi thought he used his Sharingan and managed to see the magic signature in Flare's hair underground, and it led to the spectator side, where the Fairy Tail Guild was cheering from. Itachi widened his eyes when he saw a strain of red hair close to little Asuka. And no one on the gallery noticed as they were too busy cheering and watching the fight. Lucy seemed to have noticed as she didn't do anything, and kept taking a beating from Flare, which left most of the people at the stadium bewildered. They were fighting equal a moment ago, just what is going on here? Gajeel questioned as they all started to look concerned as Lucy kept taking a beating. This is just too brutal, Mira said as they all growled in anger at Raven Tail, as Flare kept burning and beating on Lucy who didn't even move or fight back. She's using Asuka as a hostage, Itachi said, and they all looked at him with a raised eyebrow and then looked over at the stand where their guildmates were. That's dirty. We should tell the judges, Mira said, although Itachi stopped her. What are you doing? Mira had a look that said she demanded an answer. Flare can easily retract her hair and then there wouldn't be any evidence by the time the judges get to check on it. And our reputation would go even lower. Besides, Natsu is already on his way, Itachi said as they all looked towards Team A and saw that Natsu was missing, and when they turned back Itachi was already gone. Itachi didn't like seeing Lucy get beaten like this, none of them did. Especially when Flare wouldn't even let Lucy surrender and kept beating her. The next moment Lucy was tied up by Flare's hair, who had her hair in the shape of Raven Tail's guild mark with fire burning around it. She's threatening to burn away her guild mark. That's beyond low, Mira hissed in anger, an anger that was shared by everyone else from Fairy Tail as they watched Lucy beg Flare not to do it. Itachi arrived at the stand where their guildmates were and they all looked confused. Itachi, what are you? Makarov couldn't finish as Natsu arrived as well and grabbed Flare's hair and burned it away. Flare held Asuka hostage, that's why Lucy didn't fight back, Itachi informed the master, and they all looked infuriated, especially the parents of the little girl. Lucy. Now. Natsu shouted as Lucy summoned Gemini to break her free. And then transformed into Lucy wearing nothing but a towel. Which made every male look closely at Gemini Lucy, besides Itachi. While Lucy blushed out of embarrassment. The two Lucis then began chanting in perfect unison while they let out a powerful golden glow, a spell Itachi recognized from their battle against Oracion Cease. I see, she's using Gemini to double the attack power of that spell, she really has improved. Itachi smiled as victory seemed certain. Then the battlefield looked like a starry sky, Lucy released a tremendous amount of magic power and Flare looked taken aback by fear. But then as soon as it had begun, the light vanished, the level of magic power was dropping drastically, and Gemini was gone. Lucy stood there dumbfounded as the crowd began to boo her. What happened? Natsu questioned. Someone drained all her magic. Itachi instantly looked over at Raven Tail, seeing a small figure on the top of a blue-skinned man with a big nose dressed in a black cloak. The small figure gave Flare a peace sign. Raven Tail, using their dirty tricks once more, Itachi said, and Makarov looked like he was about to explode as he looked over at Ivan in the audience that smiled at the master's anger. Lucy then fell to the ground, and Flare was declared the victor. The only ones who noticed the foul play here was Fairy Tail, Ujima, and some of the other guilds like Blue Pegasus and Lamia Scale that knew Fairy Tail very well. Damn you! Natsu shouted but was stopped by Itachi. No one noticed it, so it's not a breach of the rules. However, we will just have to wait, we will get our chance to take them down. Itachi said, although Natsu still growled with rage. Everyone in the gallery knew Itachi was right, they didn't like it, but he was right and they just had to accept the result for now anyway. Everyone in the audience laughed at Lucy that was hiding the fact that she was crying. Natsu then jumped down and went up to Lucy. Don't cry, Lucy, Natsu said as Lucy avoided his gaze so that he wouldn't see her cry. But I can't help it, Lucy sobbed. It's just not fair. Let's save our tears for when we've won. Natsu looked down at Lucy with a friendly warm smile. You were amazing. It showed that we do have a fighting chance after all. 0 points. Sounds great to me, Natsu said as Lucy grabbed his hand and a gush of wind blew through the field. We get to make a comeback now. Yeah, I'm fired up, Lucy said with her eyes still teary as she looked up at Natsu. The rest of Fairy Tail seeing this gained a smile, including Itachi. Itachi returned to his team, who were all silent and couldn't wait to get back at Raven Tail. The matches kept on going, with Ren from Blue Pegasus against Urania from Mermaid Heel, who had green hair tied into various dreadlock-like curls, and she was dressed in a tight-fitting mustard suit decorated with spiderwebs. It ended up with Ren winning the match. The next match was with Orga from Sabretooth, against Warcry from Quattro Cerberus. It ended with Orga winning in a single attack of Black Lightning. Lightning, Laxus uttered as he saw the black lightning Orga used. That color, and this feel to it, it's just like that guy Zancro from Grimoire Heart, I see, so he is a god slayer. Itachi uttered and Laxus had a small smirk on his face. He doesn't seem that tough if you ask me, Laxus said as he could clearly tell he was stronger than Orga, something that even Itachi agreed with. Then out of nowhere Orga started to sing on how Sabretooth was number 1. Huh, looks like he and Gajeel have something in common, Itachi said with a stoic expression. Yeah, they both suck at singing. Laxus chuckled causing Gajeel to growl with thick marks on his forehead as everyone on Team B let out a small chuckle. Screw all of ya, none of you have any taste in good music, Gajeel shouted while gritting his teeth. Now then. Next up is the final match of the first day. It looks like the final matchup is between Fairy Tail B and Lamia Scale. Ujima said and instantly everyone from Fairy Tail Team B paid close attention. These two guilds used to be equally skilled. This should be a neat match, Jenny said. Alright, the final match of the first day will be Fairy Tail B's Itachi Uchiha versus Lamia Scale's Jura Nexus. The crowd went wild when they heard Jura's name, and cheered for the Wizard Saint. Everyone on Team B looked at Itachi who activated his Sharingan. Go and kick his ass and score us some points, Laxus said looking at his rival with an expression that said, if you lose I will beat you up. Gajeel had the same look. Good luck, Mira said with a smile. Juvia has faith that Itachi-sama will win. Juvia also gave an encouraging smile. Thank you, I won't let you down, Itachi said and jumped down into the stadium. Itachi, don't ya dare lose. Ya hear, Makarov shouted from the gallery among with the other guild members. Use even that dark power if you must, Makarov shouted, although it was meant as a joke, well Itachi hoped. Also, finish him off with a flashy powerful move, Makarov demanded. Itachi normally didn't want to do that but he was willing to make an exception this time. Itachi is a very powerful wizard from my understanding. Right, Ujima, indeed, before Jura even was picked as a wizard saint, the council asked Itachi if he wanted to be a wizard saint but he turned it down. And then Jura took his place instead. Once those words were said everyone gasped. Seriously, this guy turned down the offer to become a wizard saint. So, Jura wouldn't even be a wizard saint if this guy hadn't turned the council down. Itachi thought about all of his friends that had been laughed at, mocked, humiliated, it was all going to change. Itachi walked right up to Jura and glared at the bald monk. Ah, I will give that Itachi this, he's totally hot, Jenny declared fawning over Itachi with her cheeks slightly red as she observed this handsome young man with a hint of lust in her gaze. This comment caused both Mira Jane and Urza to flinch, neither of them liking girls going after Itachi, Mira because well she was his girlfriend, and Urza because she was a tiny bit overprotective, although she was fine with Mira seeing as Itachi loved her back. Itachi looked at Jura who seemed to be avoiding looking him in the eyes, although the master requested Itachi to finish it with a flashy move, so he was going to, and not use any illusions during this fight. Personally, I'd like to see Fairy Tail make it far, but the old hag would throw a fit. You see, I'm sorry, but I won't hold anything back. Don't worry, I won't hold back either, in fact this fight won't take that long, Itachi said with his eyes narrowed and Sharingan glowing bright red as he gave Jura a scary look. Ha, damn right it won't, Jura will crush you, several from the crowd cheered in agreement. Let the final match of the day begin. Jura wasted no time and had multiple stone pillars fly towards Itachi. Itachi jumped up and landed on pillar and kept jumping from pillar to pillar. Jura then had an iron rock arm with a massive fist fly towards Itachi like a snake. Itachi waited for the proper moment and placed his hand on the fist to throw himself over it. Itachi then ran down one of the stone pillars towards Jura. Jura raised his right hand and 3 more pillars popped up from the ground and flew towards Itachi. Itachi formed a set of hand seals as lightning flickered around his right palm. Chidori. Itachi then jabbed the Chidori into the side of a pillar and slid down while tearing up the iron rock pillar on his way down. Jura then redirected the 2 other pillars towards Itachi. Itachi looked up at the approaching pillars with his eyes narrowed. He then placed his feet on the pillar he was skidding down from, and used it as a springboard to jump away from the approaching pillars that crashed into the pillar he jumped from. The massive iron rock fist then came flying back towards Itachi, who was in midair. Itachi vanished in a murder of crows and avoided the blow. He then reappeared standing on an iron rock pillar. Can't that guy do anything but dodge? Fight. The audience complained. Jura redirected the iron rock fist back towards Itachi, and this time it clashed into him. Got you. Jura smiled, but that smile quickly faded as Itachi's body turned into a murder of crows that spread across the battlefield. They then gathered into Itachi, who formed a set of hand seals. Fire style. Dragon Flame Bomb. Itachi burst out a barrage of blazing fireballs at the shape of dragons' heads towards Jura, who jumped back and avoided the first one that went up into the sky. Jura then kept avoiding the fireballs and had his iron pillar clash into them, so they all redirected and they flew up into the sky. The dragon flame bombs exploded in the air and gathered the heat, as dark clouds formed over the arena. Itachi kept jumping around and avoided Jura's attacks, when suddenly raindrops started to fall down over the battlefield, making everyone look confused, besides Makarov and a few members of Fairy Tail that knew what was going to happen next. Get him, my boy, Makarov shouted as thunder was heard coming from the sky. Should have expected as much from Oni-san. He's going to finish the fight quickly. But like the master said, he's going to finish it with a flashy move. Urza smiled. She was going to enjoy seeing everyone who was booing them all day, suddenly getting confused, and gaping, understanding Itachi's power, and the power of their guild. This should be good. Itachi then jumped high up in the air, hovering over Jura, who smirked at him confidently. Those fire attacks of yours seem to have missed me, and now that you are open I can attack you. You are finished, Itachi Dono. Jura said as stone pillars popped up from the ground, when suddenly a thunder strike was heard, making Jura widen his eyes at what he saw. My attacks were meant for you. Who decided that? Itachi said as lightning flickered around his right hand that he raised up into the sky. I am finished. And who decided that? Itachi said as a massive dragon made out of pure lightning formed into the sky and let out a howl, that left Jura and everyone else besides Makarov and the rest of Fairy Tail speechless. The one who decides such things, is me. Itachi looked down on Jura as lightning flickered from his hands and his Sharingan glowed blood red. This is bad, Jura. Leon shouted from the stand of Lamia scale. Kirin, be gone, with the thunderclap. Itachi narrowed his eyes and swung his arm down, sending the lightning dragon crashing towards Jura. Jura had wide eyes and was about to go on defense, but the lightning dragon struck him as he wasn't fast enough. Several from the audience let out a yelp, and all of them covered their eyes from the intense light of the lightning strike, and some covered their ears from that intense powerful sound. Once it cleared, it revealed Jura looking rather burned, as what looks like a stone golem, that was in ruins, had been barely formed to try and protect Jura. Jura had taken the full damage of that blow. He was smirking as he fell to the ground. This is unexpected. Fairy Tail's Itachi Uchiha has taken down one of the 10 wizard saints, Jura. The winner is Itachi Uchiha, earning Fairy Tail Team B 10 points. Fairy Tail Team B has a total of 11 points. The announcer announced as the audience looked taken aback for a while, before they all started to cheer as Itachi stood in the stadium over Jura, with his right fist raised high up in the air. This is the power of Fairy Tail, Itachi declared as everyone let out a wild cheer, and the ones from Fairy Tail cheered the loudest out of all of them. And members of Sabretooth looked shocked, seeing as how Itachi had easily defeated one of the 10 wizard saints. All it took was one attack. Urza was smiling out of pride for her dearest big brother, and that things were turning for the better for their guild already. A very tall tan-skinned man with a very muscular body, with long light hair and a thick beard and mustache, his eyes completely white, and he had a Sabretooth emblem. How interesting. Itachi Uchiha, what power. The man was the master of Sabretooth, Gyema. And that's it for the first day of the Grand Magic Games. Here is the current scoreboard. The scoreboard showed Sabretooth in the lead with 20 points, Raven Tail in second with 18 points, Blue Pegasus in third with 14 points, Fairy Tail Team B in fourth with 11 points, Lamia Scale in fifth with 6 points, Mermaid Heel in sixth with 3 points, Quattro Cerberus in seventh with 2 points, and Fairy Tail Team A in last with 0 points. Makarov looked a little pale that Team A was doing so bad, but was a little happy that Team B was doing so well. Master Mavis gave Makarov a deadpan expression that made him pale even more. Good job, Itachi. You're awesome. Mavis turned to Itachi with a smile, as the rest of the guild cheered with her. Well done there, as expected of my rival. Laxus wrapped his arms around Itachi's shoulder with a smirk. You did it. Mira jumped up to Itachi and in the heat of the moment kissed him, which left many of the audience taken aback, especially some girls, even Jenny. Oh my. Mira blushed as she realized what she had done and hid her face by pressing it against Itachi's chest. Itachi smiled and patted Mira's head. Even Juvia hugged Itachi for having redeemed the former failures made by the guild during the games. Hell yeah, first place here we come. Gajiel declared. Hey, well at least our guild isn't in last place, Elfman smiled, although his team was in last place. We will just have to do better tomorrow and catch up to them. Urza said with a determined look to prove how strong their guild really was to everyone. Ah, just ya wait, we will catch up in no time. Natsu declared. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The next episode will be out soon.